looked at the course textbook that what I have shared with you guys. Let us continue our interaction and quickly have a recap of so far what we discussed. Very quickly, we introduced the term soft computing, right? We said soft computing is a branch of various techniques where you have neural networks, fuzzy logic, then you have genetic algorithms, then you have rough sets, correct? And also some of the optimization techniques like this. And above all that, you have hybrid approaches. Okay, when I say hybrid, this includes neurofuzzy, fuzzy genetic, right? Neurogenetic kind of a thing. So these are the various hybrid approaches, and there are n varieties of hybrid approaches. Then we said why actually you need soft computing. We also discussed this. Okay, we understand that with various examples that in practical applications in day-to-day life, in several problems, there is a lot of uncertainty. Okay, there is lot of impreciseness. There is lot of vagueness, right? There is lot of impreciseness, vagueness. These are all the things that are there in various problems. Now, how to address this? The conventional hard computing, as we discussed, if you see, we know what is actually computing, right? We said hard, and there is the soft what we are discussing now. Okay, the hard computing basically demands very preciseness. Okay, as I said, you give an input, you get an output based on a mathematical model or a algorithmic logic. So when you give an input or when I give an input, then your output you get the same. Similarly, when you process the input n number of times, when I process the input n number of times with the same logic, I get the same output. Whereas in the case of soft computing, you are dealing with these characteristics, characteristic 1, 2, 3, right? So impreciseness, uncertainty, vagueness, these are all the various aspects of the soft computing. Then if you observe, the hard computing is based upon your classical digital discrete logic, Boolean logic. Okay, whereas the soft computing is inspired and having parallels with human brain functionality, where you are having neurons in place and you have the 1, 2, 3 characters in place. Okay, so we have seen these aspects in the previous classes, and also we have given a brief intro about the neural networks, right? So the fundamental first building block of the soft computing is neural network, right? So we seen that the neural network is inspired from the human brain. How many neurons are there in the human brain? Can somebody tell me?
10^10.
So there are about 10 power 10, 10 power 11, people say 10 power 13, but there are about, you can approximately say that there are about 10 power 11 neurons, and all these are all interconnected, right? These are all interconnected. And if you pick up a neuron, it is approximately, each neuron is connected with 10 power 4 other neurons. Now you can think of these many neurons working in parallel. Remember, this is very, very important. Things working in parallel. Okay, these many number of neurons working in parallel, allowing us to perform complex tasks such as what? Your emotions, your pattern recognition. Now the point is that now you see you're all listening to me, and at the same time, is it that you're only listening to me alone, or you are doing any other thing? Honestly, you tell me here.
Sir, there are a lot of activities.
Yeah, somebody may be sleeping, somebody may be playing, somebody may be checking their WhatsApp, and first of all, somebody may not be even listening to me, right? And doing a lot of other things by just keeping their system on and then doing their activity, because we are all free to do that, right? So, but the point is that we are all doing things in parallel. Okay, we are eating, watching, listening, sensing, lot of things we are doing in parallel. The amount of this parallelism is because of these number of neurons and connected with each other, working in parallel. Okay, such massive parallelism is bringing ability to us to do the tasks such as various complex tasks, right? Now the point is that the researchers, when they wanted to bring in the intelligent behavior to the systems, of course you can read a lot of history of artificial intelligence, right? I would strongly suggest you guys to read the history of AI, okay, when it started, how it started, and all that. Now the neural network is one, okay, so the neural network is one facet. Okay, I must say that one facet of AI. Somebody said, look, we can build the intelligent systems by mimicking the human brain behavior. Now, when we say that we want to mimic the human brain behavior, how the human brain works, when we want to know how the human brain works, it all boils down to the basic fundamental functional block of the new functional unit of the human brain, which is the neuron, right? We have seen yesterday, of course, there is some slight confusion of the input and output. So the point is that you have a neuron. If you observe the neuron is receiving the input from multiple entities, okay, multiple other these things. And these connections, what these connections are called? What was the confusion yesterday that was created?
So
Dendrite.
Yeah, I said axon initially, but yeah, it is dendrite, right? So these are all dendrites. Now each neuron is receiving input from the multiple dendrites, and each neuron has a body called cell body called soma. It is called cell body or soma. Inside this cell body, you have a chemical which is potassium, and outside of this cell body, it is sodium. Now, each cell body is producing its output to the connections, external connections called axons. Okay. Now, here you have to closely observe that yesterday I have said that the axon of a neuron, if you notice, it's not directly connected to the cell body. Okay, so there is a small gap here. There is a small gap here between the axon and the connection of the and the cell body, which is neuron cell body. If you closely see what actually is there, okay, if you see here, what actually is there here, this particular part is called synapse. Okay, you see here the red part, that what I have mentioned here is called synapse. Okay, this synapse, this particular part is called a synaptic bulb. Okay. Okay. Now the point is that when the neuron exhibits, that means excites, when the neuron fires, in this particular gap between the cell body and the synapse, there would be kind of elements called neurotransmitters. neurotransmitters, they carry that electric impulses from the cell body to the synapse. Okay, so those neurotransmitters are called, you can see small elements. They carry these electric pulses from the cell body soma to the synapse of the axon. Okay, and remember, when the neuron fires, can somebody tell me when the neuron fires?
Sir, if the cumulative of all the impulses is exceeding the threshold of,
Yeah, with the aggregate, exactly. When the aggregated input of all the connections is exceeding threshold of the neuron, right? When it exceeds, what happens? The cell body exhibits the electric impulses, and these electric impulses are carried away by the neurotransmitters to the axon. That means the synapse receives it. Imagine if the cumulative input is not above threshold value of the neuron, then obviously the neuron is not going to fire. Now, once if it fires, what happens? The electric impulses of this neuron will go to the axon, and this axon of this particular neuron is getting connected with the dendrites of the other neurons. Okay. Now what happens? This electric pulse of this particular neuron through the axon of this neuron is going to the dendrites of the other neurons. Okay, means it is getting propagated to the other neurons. That's how the electric pulses will propagate. The time at which your electric pulses are transmitted, that means the time at which the neuron fires, is called latent summation period. At a particular instant of time, latent summation period, the neuron fires. At a particular instant of time, your neuron fires. That means that was the moment where your threshold in cumulative input of the cumulative input is exceeding the threshold value of the neuron. This is how the basic biological neuron works, and there is a lot more which you, if you are really interested about how this is happening, what are all the neurotransmitters, how these neurotransmitters are carrying the electric impulses, and what is there inside the synapse, what do you mean by synaptic bulb, end bulb, and similarly how the axon is connected to the dendrites of the other neurons, how these electric impulses are getting propagated, would there be any decay of the electric impulses while this transmission is happening, it a lot more to study. Well, the point is that by observing all this kind of functionality, the scientists have said that, look, this is how the neurons are firing and this is how the neurons are working. Why not we build a mathematical model for this type of functionality, and hence we can build the artificial neuron. I hope all of you have followed yesterday my statement that artificial neuron doesn't mean that a robo or artificial limb or an artificial object. It is a mathematical model. So they said, okay, why not we build a artificial neuron? Yes, we can build an artificial neuron in the form of a mathematical model. So they said, look, there is a neuron, and the neuron is receiving inputs, the X1, the X2. And here in this case, we have two connections called X1 and X2. Each connection, remember, is having connection weights. Somebody has asked me yesterday, sir, why you need connection weights? That's an important question. We will be discussing more. In fact, throughout neural networks, we will be talking only about the connection weights. So then you have the neuron having a threshold value of T, and it is producing an output called Y. They said, look, this is how I model the functionality of the neuron, biological neuron, that what we discussed in the previous chart. So now they said that, look, the neuron, this particular neuron is producing an output y, provided if sum of all the inputs I is equal to 1 to n is exceeding threshold value of the neuron. What is the cumulative input? Wi, xi. Okay. If it is exceeding greater than or equal to threshold value of the neuron, then y is going to give me 1. Okay, y is equal to 1 if the overall summation is greater than or equal to threshold value of the neuron. Otherwise, it is going to be the 0. So this is how the first model, in fact, the first model of neuron is called Mikulak-Pitts model. Okay. In fact, a lot more we need to discuss fundamentals. But if I keep talking about the fundamentals, the generalist students get bored. And so I thought first let me introduce a model, then we will go back to the fundamentals. So now the Mikulak-Pitts model with a single neuron is said that, look, I'm going to get an output of 1 if the cumulative input is exceeding the threshold value of the neuron, otherwise it is 0. This is the rule. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's clear. Now let us see, based upon this Pitts model, let us work out one particular example. Imagine I have 3 inputs, x1, x2, x3. I have only one neuron whose threshold value is 1. I suggest all of you to please take pen and paper. I repeat, all of you please take pen and paper. Now there is only one neuron and its threshold. What here? We have one neuron whose threshold value is 1 and it is receiving inputs from 3 connections called x1, x2, x3. Now the connection 1 input is the connection 1 input weight, connection weight is 1, connection 2 weight is also 1, connection 3 weight is also 1. Now the output of this particular neuron is given as input to another neuron whose threshold value is 0. Right? Now I am going to get y here. The connection weight between the first neuron and second neuron, that means this particular connection weight is -1. So far, is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, all of you please take pen and paper. Now the point is that let us give some input and see what happens to this particular neuron. So what is the input we have? We have 3 inputs, x1, x2, x3. These are the inputs. So x1, x2, and x3. Okay. Now tell me, if I am giving the input 0, 0, 0, what is the output that I get from the first neuron?
0.
Okay, x1. Okay, I'm writing here x2, x3. So the first neuron, let me say that this is y1 and the actual output is y. So what is y1? What is y? Okay, 0, 0, 0. What is y1 you get?
0, sir.
0.
Okay. What is y?
-1.
What is y?
1, sir.
1, sir.
0, 0.
Please see the rule here. Please see the rule here. The way the neuron is firing. Now tell me why. You said y1 is 0. Y1 is 0. That means input is 0. Connection weight is -1. So the cumulative input is 0. So threshold value is 0. Your output is
1.
now 0, 0, 1.
Sir.
Yes, please.
Okay, got it, sir. Okay.
What is 0, 0, 1?
1.
Y1 is 1.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What about Y?
0.
0.
0.
What about 0, 1, 0?
So same
Again.
1 0.
Same 1 0, sir.
And 0, 1, 1.
Again, same, sir.
So same. So it would be
So
yes.
it would be 2. So y1 should be 2, no?
Y1 should
No, sir, it's same 1 and 0
Yes,
only.
yes, that should be 1
yes,
1.
sir, it would be same 1 and 0.
Perfect. Tell me when 0, 1, 1 is over. So 1, 0, 0. What
So
is
why
Y1?
0 1 1 we got 1 0?
Sorry?
For y for 0 1 1 how we got y1 is equal to 1, y equal to 0?
Oh, yeah, you calculate. You see, it is 0, 1,
Two, right?
1. What is the Y1?
2.
Come on, where is the 2 here as an output?
Okay.
Look at the rule that is given there. What it would be the Y? Y you have output either 1 or 0.
Okay.
Yeah. So what is 1, 0, 0? And what is 1, 0, 1? What is 1, 1, 0? And what is 1, 1, 1?
Sir, all of them are 1 0.
Yeah. What is that? This logical operation.
Sir, it's an OR. It's an Sir, it's an OR for y1, and it's not AND for y.
It's NOR operation, right?
Yes, sir.
So if you observe here, this is the Pitts model of neural network for NOR gate. Okay. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that clear to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now let
So
us
is
see
it
another.
NOR inputs, sir?
Sorry.
The NOR operation is between the inputs?
Yeah, I'm saying x1, x2, x3, and I'm saying, see, for me output is only y. I'm not looking at y1. Y1 is an intermediate output.
Okay, sir.
See, what is y is the output. I'm not looking at y1. Okay. Now look at this. Now look at this. I have 3 inputs. And I have 3 inputs. The threshold value of the first neuron is 0. The second neuron is also 0. Third neuron is also 0. Right. Now the output is connected to another neuron. Okay. This is the output y. Okay. Just a moment. I think. Okay, leave it. So this is the connection weight is -1, -1, and -1. The connection weight is 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. The threshold value of this neuron is, okay, you please put 0. All of you please put 0 and we'll see. I don't have the value here. So keep it value 0. And you calculate. Okay. So maybe you can take it as what I say, as a working for as a practice. Now this is the Pitts model. Okay. This is called Pitts model of artificial neuron. Okay. So if you notice here, there are several things we need to understand. All of you please carefully listen. Okay. What are the things that are, if you notice here, number 1, you have seen inputs. You have seen connection weights. You have seen that there is a function or there is a unit called a threshold unit or a threshold element. Now you have also seen that there is a rule that says that y is equal to f of x, where your capital X is the summation over. Okay, that means, you know, capital X is equal to summation of I wi xi. Okay, you say y is equal to this, you can call it as a capital X. Some books write it as a net input. So if f of net will be 1 if net is greater than or equal to threshold, it is equal to 0 if net is less than threshold. This is y. Okay. Number 5. So these are all the various important terms which we are learning in the neural network. Now, if you see here, this particular y is quite interesting. This y, what we have written here, is called activation function. Okay. Now imagine you need to you want to build Pitts model of NOR gate. We have seen in the previous you know, the flip chart where we have seen the Pitts model of NOR gate. Similarly, people have designed Pitts model of OR gate, AND gate, NOR gate, NAND gate. All the gates are designed using the Pitts model. Now, so we have seen inputs, we have seen connection weights, we have seen threshold, we have seen activation function. Now we need to understand one more important word. If you see here, we are giving input x, small x, that is getting multiplied with the connection weight, and you are giving an input overall the x1 multiplied with the weight to the neuron, which is called you know, your impulse, electric impulse or whatever it is. And if it is exceeding the threshold value of the neuron is firing. That is called activation. Okay, your propagation of activation. Okay. Now, if you see the propagation of activation, the x1 to the neuron, x2 to the neuron, x3 to the neuron, and the output of this is again propagating towards another neuron, and finally you are getting output here. So if you see the direction of propagation, in which direction it is getting propagated? In this particular case, in which direction it is getting propagated? Forward direction, right?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, the forward direction.
It is in the forward direction. That means this particular network, what we have seen is a forward network. Feed forward network means activation is getting propagated in the forward direction. Okay, so far we have understood, or we have learned these terms. Now the point is, in the entire overall neural network, if you see, if I ask you, look, you have to build Pitts model for NOR gate. Okay, if I ask you a question called Pitts model of NOR gate, what is that among the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 I have listed? What is that you have and what is that you don't have? If I say build the Pitts model of a particular logical operation, what is that you have? What is that you will not have?
So we can we obviously know output of NOR gate.
Okay,
And
you have output. Always you know the output, right? In the case
yes,
of in this particular Pitts model, you know the output. What about input?
we can also, for any number of variables, we can also make inputs.
You know the
And
inputs, you know the output.
Yeah, and the activation function is also constant.
Very good. You know the activation function. And what about the direction of propagation? It is also known, because it is also known. The reason is, when you say Pitts model propagates the activation only in the forward direction. You understand? When you say I am deploying Pitts model only propagate the activation in the forward direction. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
The model works like that only. The model works by propagating the activation only in the forward direction, and hence you know the direction of propagation.
Yes, sir.
What is that you do not know?
Connection weights and threshold.
All of you are able to follow, or only one or two who is responding are able to follow? This is very, very important. It's clear, right? So you know that what are the things you know in the given problem. What is that you do not know is, as per the so far discussion, is connection weight and threshold. Remember, in almost all problems, you know even the thresholds also. Okay, you will be given thresholds. Now tell me, what is that you do not know?
Connection weight.
Remember,
Connection weights.
Connection weights. So in the entire neural network, of course, we are talking here about activation, McCulloch-Pitts model, but the entire neural network is about learning the connection weights. Entire neural networks, you call deep neural network, you call X, Y, Z, anything in the neural network environment, machine learning, deep neural network, convolutional CNN neural network, recurrent neural network, backpropagation neural network, half-field neural network, adaptive resonance theory neural network, you say any neural network. Entire neural network learning, entire neural network is about how do I learn the weights. Okay. When I say learning, it is nothing but learning the connection weights. If I know the connection weights, that means I have learned. The learning is complete. When I know the connection weights, now you look at the problem here. I have fixed -1, -1, -1. In fact, in order to make you to practice, I have given you the connection weights. Look at the previous flip chart, which is NOR gate. Okay, if you see the NOR gate, what we have discussed in the previous flip chart, it is taking some time to go back, but if you have, I think, yeah, you look at the problem here. I have given here the connection weights. Remember, if you have not given, your job is to identify these connection weights. Okay. Your job would be to identify these connections. But the point is that now I have already given you the connection weights. That's why you have given input and you got the output and you are saying that, sir, this is an OR gate. But imagine if I had not given it, then the process of learning is nothing but you know these connection weights. Okay. The entire neural network. As I've said, any neural network algorithm, it is about learning the connection weights, the way you learn the connection weights. Now, when I say you learn the connection weights, the process of learning is one important thing about how you are learning the connection weights. Somebody say, some model says that, look, learn the connection weights in a supervised manner. Learn the connection weights in unsupervised manner. Learn the connection weights in recurrent manner. Okay. So now the point is that based upon what kind of learning you are making, your neural network would be a supervised neural network. Okay. Now based upon the way your activation is propagating, supervised feed forward neural network. You understand? So it is about the learning, it is about the way activation is getting propagated. Now, in the previous NOR gate example, how many neurons you have seen? X1, X2, X3, and then?
And the output was connected to the
only one output. Only one. Okay. If you notice, you have seen X, you have seen Y, and there is one small neuron in between, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now the point is that yes. Now the point is that the way these neurons are arranged, that means your architecture. Imagine you have only input layer and output layer. So X and Y. But you have some intermediate layers that is called hidden layers. In such case, what will happen? Your neural network would be multi-layered, supervised, feed forward neural network. Now, what is this supervised term? Supervised is about learning. What is this feed forward? This is about activation propagation. And what is this multi-layered? This is architecture. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So you classify the neural networks either in the form of an architecture, a multi-layered neural network. You classify based upon the way of learning, supervised neural network, unsupervised neural network. So you classify the neural networks based upon the activation propagation. Feed forward, feedback. Okay, you understand? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Now the point is, we said one important, another important, this one is basic one is, we said net is equal to sum of I xi wi, and y is equal to 1 and y is equal to 0 if net is greater than or equal to threshold. This is otherwise. What is this we said? What is this? Sorry?
Sir, it's the activation function.
This is called activation function. Now, sir, I will write like this. y is equal to 1, y is equal to minus 1. If net is greater than or equal to t, this is otherwise. Yes, it is also possible. The first one, what we have written, is called unipolar binary activation function. Okay, this is called bipolar you understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Somebody may say that, sir, is it that I get only is it that I get only the yeah, this is also known as signum function. Okay. Then there is another function called sigmoidal function. Wherein which your sigmoidal function, these are all activation functions. Remember, these activation functions are deployed or used based on your application. Okay, which application you are using, and based on that, your activation functions will vary. Okay, wait a minute. Y is equal to 1 by 1 plus e power lambda net. There is one more activation function called like this. This is called unipolar continuous activation function. Okay, so this particular activation function would give you the values between 0 to 1. Now imagine that no, I don't want the values between 0 to 1. I want the values from -1 to 1. That means bipolar activation function, bipolar continuous. You can apply the activation function as 1 minus e power minus lambda net by 1 plus. Okay, so these are called continuous activation functions. Now the point is that there is a parameter called lambda that we will be discussing it little later. There is a parameter called lambda. This we will discuss later. Means that the function that what we discussed is one aspect. Okay, it's only one. Okay, there are many other activation functions. The popular we have written here: unipolar binary activation, bipolar binary activation, unipolar continuous activation, bipolar continuous activation, which gives you the values -1 to 1. Okay, it all depends upon the application where your which activation function need to be used. It all depends upon the kind of application where we are using. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Now
Yes,
closely
sir.
observe the activation functions. In the case of sigmoidal activation function, you give input, you get the you calculate the net input, and the neuron fires the Y. No, it's not that whether there is a threshold is there, not there. Now you observe here, Y would be in the range from 0 to 1. Y would be in the range -1 to 1. There is no comparison with an element of. Okay. It produces a value, a continuous value in the range 0 to 1, in the case of unipolar continuous. In the case of bipolar continuous, the neuron fires a value between -1 to 1. Okay, and what you are going to do, you calculate the cumulative input, you supply that cumulative input to the activation function, you get the Y value. Okay, is that clear? So far in the today's class, what we have done is we have introduced the neural network. We have understood the background philosophy of a biological neuron, typical neuron, biological neuron, its functionality. Of course, we cannot keep discussing about the biological functionality in detail. It's beyond the scope of the session or the course. So if those who are really interested can go back and then check it. Now then what happened, of course, the Pitts model is the basic model which was introduced in 1950s of neural network literature, said that look, if the biological neuron is looking, 1943, this was introduced. Okay, so if the biological neuron is working like this, can I bring the mathematical model for that biological neuron? That's how the Pitts model has come. If you see here, the Pitts model is solving simple problems like designing the gates, wherein which you take the inputs, you adjust the neurons in such a manner and fix the threshold values and learn the connection weights. Then you get the particular gate designed with the help of a Pitts model. Okay, this is a very, very fundamental model. Now, by discussing that particular fundamental model of Pitts, we have learned some of the important terms in the neural network literature, which includes connection weights, the threshold value. Then, of course, I have not introduced the bias value, which we will be discussing it in the next session. We also discussed about the activation function, and above all that, we have seen typically what is meant by a learning. Okay, in the entire neural network literature, learning means learning the connection weights or knowing the connection weights. Okay, so with that we will wind up for the today's today's session, and we'll get back on the next session. But when you go back, I would strongly